Cyberpunk 2077, a game with crazy features, and it was being made since my college graduation year. Just played it. I got about 35 hours within it, and yeah, I don't know if it's quite to the point that they wanted it to be, and the glitches do not help at all. We're going to take a look at some major spots of the game, some categories that I want to break down, and just discuss what are the pros, the cons, and everything in between. Let's break down into gameplay right away. The storyline actually is not too bad. I actually enjoyed most of it. I know some people have the issues with Johnny, but I actually think it's not that bad. I think they maybe could have worked on the acting a little bit better, or the delivery of the voice of Johnny with Keanu, but overall I'm pretty satisfied with it. The environment is something that's pretty unique. If you ever seen Blade Runner, that's what I pictured this would be, and it's almost there, but it's not quite, and it just feels more of like a high definition city, or like a glossy looking city. I wish I would see some spaceships or some sort of like newer technology. It just feels kind of grungy and like dirty. But I mean, the overall feel of it, there was a lot of talks about weather conditions. I've only witnessed night and day. It kind of has that Borderlands-esque kind of combat. It's not the prettiest thing I've ever seen, but it's definitely, it's got some perks. You know, it's got some pros, but it has some cons as well. When I played it on normal, the AI are like non-responsive. They're not life-threatening. They're very easy. When you bump that up to hard, you will start bashing your head against like a wall. You do not want to go against any AI with like the electric shock damage or ricochet, because you'll be pissed because it's a bunch of random deaths. The combat, though, outside of that, is fun. A lot of different options, a lot of different weapons. I'm playing with the perk tree. It's really intuitive. The smart technology, I think, is a little broken, but it also is kind of fun. So like whenever they make multiplayer, it's going to be interesting to see how they integrate that, because it's going to definitely need some revamping and some balancing. All right, so let's move on to features. It does feel like an RPG. It has the bones of an RPG. The skill tree, I feel like, is probably one of the best skill trees and most unique skill trees I've run into, just because you can do, you can put points into the skill tree, but you can also just, build up your skills within that skill tree, like pistols, for instance. If you do more, if you shoot the pistol more and you level it up, there's a side perk level, and that unlocks some things in the tree as well, which is kind of cool. So you don't have to, you're not forced to put all your points into one tree. You can kind of divvy it up the way you see fit. Let's move on to side characters, side interactions. They're pretty good. There's like romance in it, and that kind of is weird. There's not opportunity. They're just like, here's your 4 or 5 people that you can have some sort of romantic interaction with, and outside of that, there's no interaction. Like the people walking around in the streets, you can't really do much with them unless they're a vendor. There's no, like, you can't like pickpocket people. You can't do, you can shoot them, but you're automatically going to be thrown onto the police, whatever that thing is, the police law system, which is totally garbage. If you compare this game to GTA 5, which I think a lot of people think that this game is compared to GTA 5, you're going to hate the driving. I mean, there's a lot of cars you can buy, but there's not anything you can do beyond buying them that I know of. I've yet to experience any kind of customization with cars, or equipping cars with weapons or anything like that. It just feels a little bit left out, and it probably come in like another DLC. I find myself teleporting using these way stations to jump around the map instead of using vehicles, and sometimes I even walk to places. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I walk to places because it's more fun to explore instead of drive my car to a location. There's no thrill in driving. I think it's just a great game for exploring the terrain, just trying to see if you can, make it to the top of a tower, or, check around, look around some homeless shelters and see if, there's any boxes that contain certain items. The graphics are amazing, especially if you're on PC. And I repeat that, PC. If you play it on last gen consoles especially, you're going to slam your head into the wall over and over going, why did I buy this? And you're going to return it within, a day or two. And then last but not least, we're going to move on to my issues and concerns with this game. And there are a lot of issues. You got people bowlegging it. You got people's eyeballs popping out of their heads. I thought that was fake, but you can look at some of the characters and their eyes are just like, you see the whites, like too much of the whites. And there's also things like people, grabbing a cigar and it just, it floats for a second and it's like stays there and there's no hand anymore, or your gun disappears out of your hand. And so you're like, how am I supposed to aim? It's just ridiculous. More issues and stuff. Like I fell through the map one time and I was on a checkpoint. So I was jumping back to that checkpoint every 2 seconds, dying just over and over. And like, that's game breaking. The issues and concerns I have for this game are huge, but I think they can be solved. They talked about doing their patches in the early this year, so they're going to knock those out hopefully and get most of them, all the bad ones out of the game. That's all I have to say about Cyberpunk 2077. Go play the heck out of it, support it, and hopefully in the near future we'll get some great updates and some great features added into this game.